From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Millicent Walker.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, Inspector General of Police launches Standard Operating Procedure Manual, an initiative to boost security and safety in the nation's educational institutions. Suspended CBN Governor Gordon Emefiele approaches Federal High Court in Lagos, seeking to stop his continued detention and prosecution by the federal government. Ahead of tomorrow's crucial meeting by ECOWAS heads of state and government on the political crisis in Niger, we examine the latest developments and the options before the leaders.
On Business News tonight, Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform says MDA is not fit to collect revenue, proposes FIRS as sole revenue collector.
On Sports News tonight, Nigeria's Israel Adesanya to defend middleweight title against Sean Strickland in Sydney at UFC 293.
And from Abuja, the nation's capital, the House of Representatives slams government ministries, departments and agencies for bypassing the official procedure for recruitment, says practice perpetrates jobs racketeering.
And in international news from London, survivors have told local media that 41 migrants have died in a shipwreck off the Italian island of Lampedusa.
It's the first of its kind, a blanket protection plan to make the nation's schools safer for learning. This is the initiative the Acting Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, is bringing on board as he today launched the Standard Operating Procedure SOP Handbook for the Safe Schools program. The initiative aimed at enhancing security and safety in educational institutions across Nigeria is also composed of the Schools Protection Squad, SPS, a specialized unit within the Nigeria Police Force. Our correspondent Victoria Langjohn reports.
The police is taking the lead in the latest effort to provide security in schools across the country, following attacks on schools, particularly in the northern part of Nigeria, highlighted by the infamous abduction of schoolgirls in Chibok, Borno State. There were also attacks on some schools in Yobe, Katsina, Niger, Zamfara and Kaduna states. Following the launch of the Safe School Initiative in May 2014, the Acting Inspector General of Police is launching the Standard Operating Procedure Manual, an integral part of the initiative.
This manual outlines the meticulous procedures that will guide our law enforcement agencies, educational institutions, and communities towards a shared goal of safe and secure learning spaces. The Nigerian Police Force, along with other stakeholders, has played an instrumental role in charting this roadmap to achieve the objectives of the National Plan on Safe Schools in Nigeria.
For other security agencies, synergy amongst the agencies is necessary for effective service delivery.
I will therefore call on all relevant stakeholders to play their roles in ensuring safe education for our children. On our own part, I promise that the Armed Forces of Nigeria is readily available to support the Nigerian Police Force in this good and worthy endeavor.
The Nigeria Secretary for Defense Corps has been making regular effort at trying to sensitize the grassroots at state and local government level towards setting up more response centers.
DIG operations, can you join?
Highlight of the event is the unveiling of the Standard Operating Procedure Manual by the representative of the President of the Senate, flanked by the acting IGP and other dignitaries.
Senate President, I built this SOP program with the hope that it will be a turning point to saving our schools. Thank you.
The manual will serve as a reference for school authorities, security agencies and other stakeholders involved in the Safe Schools program to empower them to take coordinated and effective measures in ensuring the safety and protection of schools in Nigeria.
In Abia State, the government has unveiled Operation Crush, which it says will offer security agencies the latitude to deal with crime and criminality in any part of the state. While launching the security initiative, the state governor, Mr. Alex Oti, asked the security operatives to live up to the task and endeavor to crush any resistance on their way. He later commissioned security patrol vehicles as a way of showing government's commitment to making Abia State a safe place for residents and would-be investors.
It's a new dawn in Abia State as the government has renewed its efforts at tackling the spate of insecurity in the area. With the launch of Operation Crush, a joint security task force with membership drawn from the Nigerian Armed Forces, police and paramilitary. Setting the tone for the event, the State Commissioner of Police affirms the commitment of the force to professionalism.
I'd like to assure you all that within the limits of the available resources to us, both human and material, and also counting on the unflinching support of the governor and his lieutenants, we shall do our best to ensure that his vision for security in Abia State is met.
In his remark just before the launch, the governor, Alex Oti, assures residents of government's collaboration with the federal government towards better welfare packages for security personnel, while asking task force members to be ruthless with criminals.
This special operation is technically set up to swiftly identify, analyze, and respond to security threats from within any part of the state. As the code name indicates, the goal is to counter with necessary force any incidents of kidnapping, armed robbery, and other forms of violent crimes anywhere in the state. From this day, announce to those who delight in bringing pains to families and communities that no part of the state shall be safe for them again. The security operatives driving this exercise have my strict instructions to be brave and ruthless to the criminals. We shall neither negotiate nor concede anything to anyone threatening the peace and security of innocent citizens in this state. Operation Crush is declared.
To begin the operation, Governor Alex Oti commissions 20 patrol vehicles to cover flashpoint areas within Abia State.
Well, staying with security matters, terrorists have reportedly killed one person and abducted no fewer than 14 others in 3 different communities in Sabuwa local government area of Katsina State. The attackers were said to have abducted the victims after invading their villages at about 1 a.m. on Tuesday. 7 persons were abducted in Yakaka in Gazarai ward, 6 others kidnapped in Yalagwada in Maibaka ward, while a woman was kidnapped in Maitermi in Rafinwa ward. According to the police spokesperson in the state, Abubakar Sadiq, the forces launched a search party to rescue the victims. And now to the judiciary. The suspended Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele has asked a federal high court sitting in Lagos to stop the federal government from further prosecuting him on the charge of illegal possession of firearm, ammunition, or on any other charge for that matter. He's also seeking an order of the court discharging him of all offences prosecuted by the government in brazen disobedience of the subsisting orders of the court, granting him bail on July the 25th, 2023. Mr. Emefiele, through his lawyers led by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Joseph Daudu, filed an application to this effect before vacation judge Justice Nicholas Owebo, who had admitted him to bail after his arraignment. A member of the defense team, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Victor Opara, confirmed that the application, which was filed yesterday, August the 8th, has been served on the federal government today. Channels Television has also gathered that the federal government last week filed an application before the court seeking leave to appeal against the order granting bail to the suspended CBN governor. Justice Owebo has fixed Thursday, August 10th, to hear the application. In another legal matter, the Court of Appeal Abuja has reserved judgment in 2 appeals brought before it by 2 All Progressives Congress governorship aspirants in Kogi State, Mr. Abubakar Achimugu and Senator Smart Adeyemi. Both are appealing against the judgment of the Federal High Court Abuja, which affirmed Mr. Usman Ododo as the APC flag bearer for the November 11 governorship election in the state. The appeal was against the judgments of Justice Obiora Egwatu and Justice James Omotosho, both of the Federal High Court Abuja, which affirmed the candidacy of Mr. Ododo for the governorship election. Mr. Achimugu had approached the Federal High Court seeking to disqualify Mr. Ododo, claiming that he did not resign his employment with the Kogi State Public Service 30 days before contesting the governorship primary election. In a notice of appeal filed on July the 21st through his counsel, Josiah Daniel Ebune, Mr. Achimugu asked the appellate court for an order setting aside the judgment of the trial court. Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court Abuja had, in a judgment delivered on July the 12th, held that Senator Adeyemi also did not prove his allegation that Mr. Ododo was not lawfully nominated by the APC. Dissatisfied with the judgment, Senator Adeyemi approached the appellate court to set aside the judgment. Niger's junta has been making changes to the government of President Mohamed Bazoum, the latest being former Finance Minister Lamini Zaini as the country's new Prime Minister. It comes as ECOWAS leaders prepare to meet over the next 24 hours to discuss the next course of action in the West African country as the junta refuses to reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum. The regional group's next steps are being keenly awaited by watchers here in Africa and beyond the continent. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Amarachi Ubani, has more.
It is exactly 2 weeks since a section of the Presidential Guard in Niger ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, announcing a leadership days later. And while reactions, especially condemnation of the coup, has come in from within Africa and beyond, ECOWAS' response has perhaps become the most important. A week ago, the regional body announced a number of sanctions on Niger, encouraging member states to announce same to force the junta to restore democratic rule to the country, more importantly, to reinstate Mohamed Bazoum as president. ECOWAS said the sanctions come into effect following a 7-day ultimatum to the junta, an ultimatum which expired on Sunday, August 6th. Among its many sanctions, ECOWAS also tabled the use of force as a last resort. During the grace period, it's been the most talked about subject in the Niger coup, forcing even the junta to respond with its own actions. On Sunday, it announced it had closed the Nigerian airspace until further notice, citing the threat of military intervention from ECOWAS. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, who had presented ECOWAS' decision, was seen as preparing the country's military forces for action, raising criticism from experts.
I thought we should be more circumspect in deciding military actions, particularly given the fact that in the last 10 or so years, our own military have had issues trying to resolve the insecurity in Nigeria, particularly in the northeast. And as of today, the Nigerian military, I think it's in 32 out of the 36 states. So already our military is overstretched.
Burkina Faso and Mali have warned that any military intervention in Niger to restore deposed Mohamed Bazoum will be considered a declaration of war against their two countries. On Monday, delegations from both military governments arrived in Niger to meet with the coup leaders. The Nigerian junta on Wednesday accused France of violating its airspace as part of a broader plan to destabilize the country. This was revealed in a video statement by Niger Army spokesman Colonel Major Amadou Abdurrahman. He provided no evidence to back up the claim. But his statement came hours after news emerged that a former rebel leader had launched a movement opposing the junta. In addition to evacuation of foreign nationals from Niger over safety reasons, countries such as France and the United States have announced a pause and withdrawal of aid to the country, up to $100 million.
Tomorrow, that pause would be the pause would go away and security assistance would be reinstated. But as we've made clear, hundreds of millions of dollars are at stake.
Spokesperson to the Nigerian government clarified on the issue of military intervention, saying that President Bola Tinubu would prefer a diplomatic and peaceful resolution to the military takeover.
He has communicated clearly that he, along with his colleagues in the bloc, would prefer a resolution that was obtained through diplomatic means, through peaceful means, rather than any other.
All eyes now turn to ECOWAS, awaiting the outcome of its meeting on Thursday, on the next moves towards ending the junta in Niger. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
In part two, after the break, we have more perspectives on the Niger crisis and options open to ECOWAS from Nigeria's former ambassador to Switzerland and former permanent representative to the United Nations offices in Geneva. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Inspector General of Police launches standard operating procedure manual and initiative to boost security and safety in the nation's educational institutions. Suspended CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele approaches Federal High Court in Lagos, seeking to stop his continued detention and prosecution by the federal government. Ahead of tomorrow's crucial meeting by ECOWAS heads of state and government on the political crisis in Niger, we examine the latest developments and the options before the leaders. And survivors have told local media that 41 migrants have died in a shipwreck off the Italian island of Lampedusa. Staying with the situation in Niger, earlier I spoke to Nigeria's former ambassador to Switzerland and former permanent representative to the United Nations offices in Geneva, Ambassador Joseph Ayalogo. I started by asking him what he expects to happen tomorrow.
It's not really realistic to expect a team of soldiers that have taken over to just shoo and disappear and change their plan in 7 days just because the ECOWAS said so. And the ECOWAS hasn't shown itself as an entity that can generate that kind of terror or respect. So there you go. They made that mistake. Of course, it's blown in their faces, and what I expect that common sense will prevail, and then they begin to really try to manage the situation, talk with the coupists, find out what their plans are, try to make them not harm anybody. So far, it has been bloodless, and thank God, it remain so. And then they take it from there, so that this trend this time about threats, about war, which nobody really gains from, and it's not necessary for us to fight within our sub-region just because we say we are preserving democracy. There are many ways to preserve democracy. I think I'll come to that if I do have time.
So Ambassador, you're saying that the ultimatum was a bad idea. However, there have been sanctions And we're also seeing a few other sanctions from countries like the United States. And then we've also seen, what appears to be support for Niger coming from Mali, Burkina Faso, and support for the ECOWAS as well, France, the US, and some others.
Yes, there has been sanctions. Sanctions would not have been the annoying thing to them because they know sanctions often don't work. What seemed to have irked the coups have been this threats that they would, some army will be laid out against them. So that's it. Well, of course, you can see from what you say, which is quite true, there's a ranging of groups in the opposites. There are some, the ECOWAS countries, especially some of them that have military regimes on, they have said that they would not want to see Niger attacked. In fact, that they would support actively Niger if they are attacked. The same thing Algeria and some of the other countries around have indicated. Well, of course, the action of countries outside our region is also important, even though I think that perhaps we should gradually begin to discount those comments from regions that do not know, are not in our countries, are not in our region. They don't know how it hurts the region and so on. They probably are pushing for their own interest, but it doesn't make too much sense that they say they are supporting us. They are supporting ECOWAS on encouraging or goading ECOWAS to go and attack another ECOWAS country. That is another kettle of fish.
What's the way forward for the region? How can we, how can ECOWAS forestall future military takeovers?
Yes, good question. ECOWAS is committed to preserving the democracy, but the fact is that the democracy is not undermined just by the military takeovers or the possibility of military takeover. Democracy is undermined by a whole gamut of things. The way people are governed, it doesn't matter whether it's under civilian or military rule, the way they are governed and the expectations, the way these administrations meet the expectations of the governed is important. So ECOWAS must now begin to strategize on how to really address the issues, the very many issues that undermine democracy, not just coups. By the time we push development issues, integration issues, economic issues, and things that eventually change the life of the people, because it's the people that matter in a democracy.
My earlier conversations with the ambassador were staying with the situation in Niger. We understand the former emir of Kano, Alhaji Mohamed Sanusi, has met with the coup leaders in Niger Republic. The former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria met with the military leaders after the junta declined meeting with representatives of the African Union, Economic Community of West African States, and a top U.S. diplomat. The former Apex Bank governor met the coup leaders in company of the Sultan of Damagaran, which is the third largest city in that country. Sources say Alhaji Sanusi undertook the trip in his personal capacity, but with the knowledge of President Bola Tinubu following his concerns about the impasse and the likely consequences it's already having on Nigeria-Niger relations and on the citizens of the two countries. We understand he's back in the country where he's expected to brief the president.
I came to brief him on the details of my discussion with the leaders of of Niger.
Would you say your intervention was positive, successful?
Interventions are ongoing, and we'll continue to do our best to bring the two parties together to improve understanding. This is a time for public diplomacy. It's not a matter that we leave to governments. All Nigerians, all Nigerians need to be involved to find a solution that works for Africa, a solution that works for Niger, that works for Nigeria, and a solution that works for humanity.
There are also reports that you took this initiative by yourself and not the government's delegation.
No, I'm not the government. I'm not.
Okay.
I was not sent by the government.
Okay.
The government officials were aware I was going, but it was my personal initiative using my personal contacts to get there, and I will continue to do my best. It is my duty as a leader to do that.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu is set to have authorized a group of Muslim scholars to meet with the military junta in Niger Republic in a bid to resolve the socio-political crisis in that country. The religious leaders who disclosed this while speaking with reporters after meeting with the president said their mission is to find a solution that will ensure peace and harmony in Niger Republic and the sub-region.
The president, like he said, welcome our intervention, and he has promised that if we could also talk to the people on the other side, for them to be ready to give concession, then ECOWAS, that he is chairman of, will also be ready. Other than that, the president deplored, coup d'etat in the Sahel region. And as a Democrat himself, he said he will do everything to ensure that there is democracy, justice, freedom, and peace in the sub-region. We, as ulama, are also committed to peace and justice. And the president will be enabling, the government will be enabling the ulama to mediate as it is appropriate. So this is why we're here, and it is a mission accomplished because the president responded positively, and in turn he has given us assignment to also mediate to ensure reconciliation between the warring factions in Niger. So we pray for peace, not only in Nigeria, but also in the sub-region and in the world, because that is the only thing that can ensure development.
Still ahead on the news at DP moves to reconcile aggrieved members in Kogi State ahead of the November governorship election. Plus, the chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform says MDA is not fit to collect revenue, proposes FIRS as sole revenue collector. That's on Business News. Do join us again. Welcome back to Issues of Development. The Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, is calling for increased collaboration of Nigerians in the diaspora for the nation to achieve its economic growth targets. Dr. Okonjo-Iweala has also highlighted Nigeria's enormous investment potential, especially the nation's huge market and youthful population. She made the remarks in Abuja after receiving a Diaspora Award from the chairperson of the Nigeria in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, Mrs. Abike Dabiri Herrera.
We have working in other parts of the world, that they be attracted to come back from time to time, if not permanently, to try and give back to the country in whatever capacity. It doesn't only have to be in government, it can be in the private sector, it can be in civil society, but they come back and give of their expertise and their technical capacity. So the human resource we have in this world, scattered in various countries, is immeasurable. We have people who are working in the digital space, in tech, which that's the wave of the future. How do we attract them back to work with those at home who are also innovating? We have very talented people at home as well. And marrying the two pools of human resources, I think, is one of the biggest. Now, I want to say one thing. Much as we love the diaspora, I also want us in the country to focus on how to stop people from becoming part of the diaspora. So we like the diaspora, and you can't stop people from leaving, but we also need to build an attractive environment and country so our young people can stay, or they can go and come back. Yeah. We have 2 examples here of 2 young people who have gone and come back running organizations in Nigeria. So we want more of tapping of that resource of pooling.
Let's now head to Abuja for more stories. Nota is waiting. Hi, Nota. Nice tie.
Indeed. Hello, Millicent, and thank you, and welcome to the nation's capital, to the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives has condemned the use of waivers for job recruitment into the federal ministries, departments, and agencies. This is coming from the chairman of the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee investigating mismanagement of personnel recruitment, employment racketeering, and other related matters, Mr. Yusuf Gagdi, during a meeting with relevant government agencies in Abuja.
APPS are absconding from this. It's been over a week since this ad hoc committee began its investigation into the mismanagement of personnel recruitment and gross mismanagement of the integrated payroll and personnel information system by federal ministries, departments, and agencies.
Some of the documents.
This time, the committee is hosting officials of the Energy Commission of Nigeria, and some interesting revelations are made.
I noticed not only your agency, but majority of the agency, they use this waiver on advertisement to cause this employment racketeering. For me, I think it's deliberate.
However, the chairman of the commission denies any wrongdoing.
We have nothing to hide. Don't do anything shady within the commission. Among the applications that we have the best of the best among them.
Government agencies were granted waivers by the Federal Character Commission to carry out recruitment without advertising the job vacancies, which is the procedure for recruitment into public service. This approval does not sit well with the committee.
Waiver is a fraud because agencies are hiding under waiver to recruit their family members, to recruit their friends, to recruit those that give them money, to sell slots, etc., etc.
Meanwhile, a witness who appeared before the committee and spoke in a native language has testified against the former desk officer in charge of the Integrated Personal Payroll Information System at the Federal Character Commission, Mr. Haruna Kulu, accusing him of collecting 2 million naira for job placement.
Haruna Kolo, when he approached him, he called the person that needed to buy the slot and told him he had gotten the slot. He should send him his document. The man sent him documents, and he told Kolo that the guy that needed the slot have sent him documents. How much will the guy pay? He now says he should tell the guy 2 million naira.
Mr. Kolo and his current employer, the Asset Management Company of Nigeria, have been summoned to appear before the committee on Thursday for the continuation of the probe. Also summoned for the next meeting is the Director of IPPIS and the Accountant General of the Federation.
And quality education, access to healthcare services, and the provision of economic opportunities to the people in the Northeast region are areas the Northeast Development Commission, NEDC, must focus on. That's according to the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, who today inaugurated the reconstituted board of the NEDC at the State House in Abuja. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, reports.
The Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, makes his way into the hall where members of the Northeast Development Commission, NEDC, are already waiting. Before inaugurating the board, the Vice President lays out what the expectations from the Northeast Development Commission are.
NEDC is not just an institution, but also a symbol of our collective determination to reclaim the narrative of this region, to rewrite the story of the anguish into one of revival and triumph. The Northeast Development Commission is here to catalyze the access to quality education, healthcare, economic opportunities, among other things. The Commission can only guarantee the safety of the emerging and future generations if it nurtures the seeds that will produce them.
The new NEDC board chairman reveals the plans the commission will be working with.
This board shall focus on the following key areas. Number one, provision of palliatives to key into President Tinubu's recent pronouncement on food, security, transport, agriculture, etc. Two, completion of ongoing recovery, reconstruction, and stabilization projects.
The Northeast Development Commission Board was reconstituted by President Bola Tinubu after assuming office. Outside the hall, Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State tells journalists that the governors in the Northeast region expect to see more developmental strides by the NEDC.
They have to invest in education, I said so, because education is a game changer. They have to invest in girl-child education, which is very important. And then most importantly, they have to invest in human resources for health and education, because this is still our own problem.
With peace gradually returning to the Northeast region, the Northeast Development Commission has its task cut out, rekindling hope in the minds of the people so they can put the dark years of terrorism behind them. Empress Simon, Channels Television News.
Ahead of the November governorship elections in Kogi State, the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, has commenced a reconciliation process with aggrieved members. According to the acting national chairman of the party, Mr. Umar Damagum, the PDP cannot afford to go into that election with its house divided. He was speaking at a meeting with party officials from Kogi State at the PDP headquarters in Abuja. And that's all from our Abuja studios. Over now and back to the Lagos studios with business news with Melinda Akinami. Melinda.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Many thanks, Neelta. Welcome to Business News. The Presidential Committee on Tax and Fiscal Policy Reform says the ministries, departments, agencies, MDAs, as well as other government officials and agencies should not be responsible for direct collection of revenue in the country. The chairman of the committee, Mr. Taiwo Yedele, recommends exclusive collection by the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, to ensure efficiency. He made this known on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily.
Even though our revenue collection from taxes is one of the lowest in the world, ironically, our cost of collection is one of the highest. So, and the reason for that is because you've got all manners of agencies. At the federal government alone, level alone, we had 63 MDAs that were given revenue target last year. No, actually 2023 budget. And two things that will come up from that. On one hand, these agencies are being distracted from doing their primary function, which is to facilitate the economy. Number two, they were not set up to collect revenue, so they won't be able to collect revenue efficiently. Okay. So move those revenue collection functions to the FRS. You gain two advantages. The cost of collection and efficiency would improve. These guys will focus on doing their work, and the economy will benefit as a result.
Outside Nigeria, Ghana's inflation rate has risen further in July, reaching the highest level in 4 months. Figures from the Ghana Data Service shows inflation rose to 43.1% in July from 42.5% in June, putting more pressure on the central bank to continue raising interest rates. According to the agency, the surge in inflation is driven by higher food prices, which moved from 54.2% in the previous month to 55%, while non-food prices also saw a hike from 33.4% to 33.8%. Experts believe if inflation continues to rise, policymakers might implement another interest rate hike during their meeting in September the 18th. The loss in the domestic equities market deepens today in the trading session as the market cap shed about 622 billion naira. For details, here's Will Evong. on to the stock market report, and here we go. The market came tumbling down. The bear won by a landslide today as the oil share index recorded a 3-digit loss, down today by 1.75% in today's trading session. Now the market has lost that 65,000 levels, now at 64,000. And the biggest culprit here, Dangote Cement. Dangote Cement share price dropped by 9.09% today. In Naira terms, that's 32 Naira off its share price to close at 320 Naira. Activity was pretty bloody, not a lot of money flowing in, I guess, and we begin to, get used to value being at double digits, but today it's at 2.61 billion Naira and volume settling at 238 million units. The sectors also took a hard hit as well. Let's look, lots of sell-offs across board, not one spared, but Guinea Insurance emerged top gainer today, 10%, closed at 33 kobo. It's not one of those popular stocks in the insurance sector, but it seemed to catch investors' interest today, and I think investors are probably positioning for its interim dividend. It's quite topsy-turvy in the market, and it may seem like investors can't win it all, but like they say in the market, plan your trade and trade your plan. And that's the stock market report. I'm Will Ibang. Many thanks, Will. Let's hope the market returns to winning ways tomorrow. Let's also check out the numbers from other major equities around the world.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Melinda. Now to around the world in 41 migrants have died in a shipwreck off the Italian island of Lampedusa. A group of 4 people who survived the disaster told rescuers that they were on a boat that had set off from Sfax in Tunisia and sank on its way to Italy. The 4 survivors, originally from Côte d'Ivoire and Guinea, reached Lampedusa on Wednesday, consisting of 3 men and a woman. They told rescuers that they were on a boat carrying 45 people, including 3 children. Here's Simon Pusi with more on this and other international stories.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Survivors have told local media that 41 migrants have died in a shipwreck off the Italian island of Lampedusa.
We arrived to the target, this iron boat, around 50, 70 persons.
The rescue group, Doctors Without Borders, released a video of one of their vessels going to the aid of a boat loaded with migrants.
Listen to me, okay? Is anyone in the water?
A group of 4 people who survived the disaster told rescuers that they were on a boat that had set sail from Sfax in Tunisia and sank on its way to Italy. More than 1,800 people have lost their lives so far this year in the crossing from North Africa to Europe. 9 bodies have been found and 2 more people are feared dead after a fire at a holiday home hosting people with learning disabilities in France. Another 2 are feared to have died, bringing the number to 11. Nearly 80 firefighters were sent to the blaze in La Forge after emergency services were alerted at 6:30 a.m. local time on Wednesday. The missing people are considered potentially deceased, according to a local official. The fire has now been extinguished, but its cause is not yet clear. 17 people were evacuated from the building, while at least 1 person has had to be taken to hospital. The 8 countries that share the Amazon basin have fallen short on an agreed goal to end deforestation. Delegates from the countries are meeting in the Brazilian city of Belém for a 2-day summit on the issue. Despite the smiles, though, hopes for a united policy adopted by all 8 nations were dashed. A joint declaration created an alliance to combat deforestation, but left each country to pursue its own conservation goals. Climate activists said the deal lacked concrete measures at a time when the planet is melting. The president of the EU Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, says the EU will make at least €400 million accessible to Slovenia after floods during her visit to the country. Thousands of people have been evacuated from homes around northwest and central Slovenia, with the army, firefighters and rescuers trying to free others and clear the streets. During her visit to the flood-affected area of Slovenia, von der Leyen saw the wreckage left behind by rain, flooding and mudslides, which have killed at least 6 people and affected tens of thousands of households. She said part of the problem was climate change and reiterated the need for collective efforts to combat its impact.
It's so important to see firsthand and with my own eyes the massive impact of this disaster. And it was heartbreaking to see the devastation that the rain and the flooding and the mudslides have caused. We feel with the victims, we mourn those who lost their lives. But it was also heartwarming to see the enormous solidarity of people and their confidence and their courage.
Police have clashed with protesters in Cape Town as an ongoing strike continues to disrupt life in South Africa's tourism capital. Here, some residents set up barricades, many which were set alight, to prevent other residents of this township leaving. Minibus taxi operator organisations are in a deadlock with the Cape Town government after failing to resolve various grievances, including that of impounding taxis the government claims are unroadworthy. According to a statement from the South African Ministry of Police, 5 deaths have been associated with the strikes and 120 arrests have been made. And Britain's Prince Harry has visited Japan for the first time in 4 years to attend a sports summit in Tokyo, where he expressed his love of Japanese culture. The Duke of Sussex was participating in the International Sports Promotion Society Sports Values Summit ahead of a trip to Singapore, where he will play in the Centabale ISPS Handa Polo Cup. He took part in the Tokyo summit along with polo player Nacho Figueiras and the former New Zealand All Black rugby player Dan Carter. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. We continue with sports news here. Here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Millicent. Israel Adesanya will defend his middleweight title against American Sean Strickland at UFC 293 in Sydney, Australia. That's on September the 10th. Adesanya last fought in April after beating long-term rival Alex Pereira to regain the belt he had lost some 5 months earlier. Now, the Nigerian-born New Zealander was set to fight Dricus du Plessis next, but the South African is injured. Strickland will be competing in his first UFC title fight. The Chika Chukwumerije Sport Foundation has announced that the 6th edition of its Invitational Taekwondo Open will hold on August the 12th at the indoor hall of the Moshood Abiola National Stadium in Abuja. 100 young athletes comprising 64 boys and 36 girls from 6 Taekwondo clubs have been confirmed for the event. Beijing 2008 Olympic medalist and founder Chika Chukwumerije promised a well-organized event that will be memorable for both competitors and spectators. Two-time heavyweight world champion Anthony Joshua has acknowledged that he will need to be on his A game in order to see off the challenge of Robert Helenius. Joshua admitted that he cannot afford to overlook Helenius, particularly having experience of losing to late-standing Andy Ruiz when he made his United States debut in June 2019. The 33-year-old had been scheduled to face Dillian White in a rematch of their December 2015 fight before his opponent failed a drug test. A fly half Andre Pollard and centre Lucanio Am have been left out of South Africa's 33 Rugby World Cup squad through injury. Both players started in the World Cup final win over England. That was in 2019. Captain Siya Kolisi has been included, having not played since April after he tore the anterior cruciate ligament in his right knee. Lut de Jager is another notable omission owing to a chest problem, but the Sale Sharks lock joins both Pollard and Am on a 6-man standby list. South Africa begin the defence of their title against Scotland on September the 10th. More than 100 people have appeared before a Greek prosecutor in connection with a deadly brawl before a Champions League qualifier near Athens on Monday. A 29-year-old Greek man was stabbed and died in hospital after fans of AEK Athens and Croatian side Dinamo Zagreb clashed ahead of the third-round qualifying game at the stadium. Police have arrested 104 people, including 94 Croats, 6 Greeks, an Albanian, an Austrian, a Bosnian, and a German. And that's sports news. I'm Ayo Tunde. Balogun is back to you next.
Thanks, Ayotunde. And the main news again. Inspector General of Police, Mr. Lukayode Egbetukun, today launched the Standard Operating Procedure Manual, an initiative he said would boost security and safety in the nation's educational institutions. The suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, has approached the Federal High Court to Lagos seeking to stop his continued detention and prosecution by the federal government. And survivors of a shipwreck have told local media that 41 migrants have died off the Italian island of Lampedusa. And that's News at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.